Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Gifted. All right, Ungifted. When we left off, the crew from the gifted schools actually kind of talking about cheating and helping Donovan pass the test because they feel like now he's probably not gifted, but they really do need him. We start with chapter 15 on page 160. It's called Untested. Donovan Curtis, IQ 112. Noah Euclid gave Daniel Sanderson a black eye at the dance on Friday night. It happened when Noah did that WrestleMania dive from the DJ's speaker tower. Somehow he must have kicked Sanderson in the face with his mother's red leather boots. I'm sure it was an accident. Noah wouldn't hurt a fly. Technically, it was all my fault. I'm the one who turned Noah onto YouTube, and that's where he discovered professional wrestling. I didn't feel bad, though, because Sanderson totally had it coming. My only regret was that Noah couldn't have gotten Nussbaum with the other foot. Trust me, I didn't hear any of this from the Daniels themselves. I told my parents and Katie that if those guys called or came by, I was officially not at home. But why, Donnie? They're your best friends. I thought they were my friends when I showed them the robot, I replied, but then they went behind my back and wheeled it into the gym so 1,000 idiots could use it as a punching clown. What do you care about their robot? Katie challenged. I'm the driver, I argued. We're like the Lone Ranger and his horse. Her eyes narrowed. Any idiot can work a joystick. What else did you do on that project? Did you help build it? Part of it. She was unconvinced. Which part? The exterior, I said stubbornly. You can't even make craft dinner, Katie accused. How would you learn how to build a sophisticated piece of technology? It's not about the robot, it's about the Daniels, I insisted. Those guys think they can treat the gifted kids like they don't measure up as humans. You can't push people around in front of a dozen chaperones, so they took it out on the Tin Man. I'm not talking to them. Mom respected my wishes, but on Wednesday, Nussbaum took a picture of Sanderson's face on his cell phone and texted it to Katie. She'd always had a soft spot for the Daniels, if you can imagine Katie having a soft spot for anybody. Anyway, when she showed me the picture, I did a double take. Sanderson looked like he had been hit by a train, not a half-pint YouTube-obsessed genius. What a shiner. His eye wasn't just black, it was purple and yellow and green, and a few shades I didn't know the name of. Noah did that? My sister exclaimed in amazement. He comes across like a dork, but he's got killer moves, and his mom had killer footwear. In the end, my conscience went out. I headed over to Sanderson's. If the Daniels were texting my sister, then they really were angling for a visit, which meant they probably wanted to apologize. I guess I had to go over there and let them. Sanderson might have been suffering, but it hadn't stopped him from milking this injury for all it was worth. He had Deirdre and Heather over there, holding his hand and refreezing ice packs for his poor eye. Nussbaum was on the scene too, limping a little, just in case there was any sympathy spillover from the girls. If I thought I was going to get an apology, I was mistaken. Instead, everybody started talking about the night of the dance and that bully. I swear I had absolutely no idea who they were talking about. The only bullies in the gym that night had been the Daniels themselves. What bully? I asked finally. You know, said Sanderson, the one who hit me, the bodybuilder in the wrestling outfit. I was blown away. With the red boots? Sanderson gave me a beseeching look. He was determined to prove in front of the girls that he'd been brutalized by a huge monster, and he expected me to back him up. He picked the wrong person on the wrong day. Noah Euclid could lose a fight to a spider web. He is 6 inches shorter than you and weighs about as much as your cat. He's a black belt in Taekwondo, Deirdre spoke up. You guys in the academy may think you're special just because you're smart, but you can't go around punching people. This Noah delinquent should be kicked out of school for what he did. I laughed. Noah, he couldn't get kicked out of school for murder. The Daniels stuck to their guns, though. Every time they mentioned Noah, he got bigger and meaner and trained by a more secret paramilitary organization. As soon as the girls were gone, though, they offered a little remorse for kidnapping the robot, in a Daniels sort of way. Yeah, I guess it was sort of uncool, Nussbaum murmured, but you should have seen the look on your face. Yeah, it was totally worth it, agreed Sanderson, at least until that little ninja cold-cocked me. And by the way, thanks for nothing for having my back with Heather and Deirdre a minute ago. I laughed mirthlessly. You better pray they never get a look at Noah close up. He'd better pray he never gets a look at me, Sanderson promised darkly. That's quite the crowd you hang with over at the Genius School, Nussbaum observed. You never told us plaid shirt was the normal one. For some reason, that really got to me. You know, a few of those kids are so smart that we're not even smart enough to understand how smart they are. So leave them alone, and definitely leave their robot alone. We were just fooling around, Nussbaum mumbled. We used to know a kid who did stuff like that all the time. He was a kid named Donovan Curtis. I almost forgave them because they definitely had a point. What were a few bumps and scrapes on the Tin Man compared to the wreckage I had visited on Hardcastle Gym? They were the same old Daniels. I was the one who was different. Besides, with my big retest coming up, you had to figure I'd be back at Hardcastle Middle School before too long. I was going to need some friends there. I approached the upcoming testing the way a death row inmate approaches the day of his execution, reluctantly and with my feet dragging. It was kind of touching how many of my robotics classmates offered to help me study and coach me. With the exception of Abigail, who was planning to relish my failure, everyone seemed to be pulling for me. A lot of it might have been because of Katie, or because I was the best person to drive the Tin Man at the robotics meet. But I'd like to think that some of it was because they accepted me as one of their own, even though I was so far below them intellectually that I needed a telescope to see the soles of their shoes. Chloe offered to work with me at least 20 times. She was kind of offended I kept blowing her off. I couldn't make her understand that it was nothing personal. I probably should have just come out and told her point blank that I had even less chance of comprehending what she knew than I had of passing the test. When I finally caved and let her help me with the math portion, she talked so far over my head that all I could hear was airy whispers, and every time she tried to dumb it down, it became a little bit harder to understand. When we were done, she looked at me in a genuine alarm. Oh, wow, Donovan, what are you going to do? Translation, stick a fork in me, I'm done. I shrugged. I'll put in some time tonight. Maybe it'll all click. She wasn't buying it. You need more than a click. You need a miracle. Maybe we should get Noah to tutor you. He'd do it. Any one of us would. I laughed bravely. If I can't understand you, a study session with Noah would probably make my head explode. Funny, even though Chloe was back to her plaid shirts and baggy jeans, I kept seeing her as she looked all dressed up at the party. The idea of her finding out exactly how smart I wasn't had become kind of sad to me. I even had a plan for cleaning out my locker after school so there'd be less chance of her witnessing my disgrace. One day I'd be there and the next I'd be gone. After a few weeks, maybe somebody would say, remember that guy who used to go here for a while? What was his name again? No one would have the answer except for Noah, and he would pretend he didn't. Eventually, all that would remain of me at my time at the academy would be the faded pictures peeling off Tin Man. And by then, no one would be able to recall who had even put them there. We're going to pause there.